Manning, President Americans for Limited Government, live streaming to you today. Appreciate you joining me. Sorry, a couple minutes late. I was busy scrambling around with some video content to make the case, and quite honestly, there's so much going on and so much video content that I lost a little bit track of time. But let's talk about it. Merrick Garland has been the number one blocker for Joe Biden in terms of delaying, denying, and stopping moving ahead with any kind of investigation of Biden. He's been problematic from the beginning. He authorized the Mar-a-Lago raid against the recommendations of his FBI agents on the ground. He's shown a continuing, nonstop, aggressive, militarized attack on any dissent to the Biden administration, going after parents, going after a whole variety of people, not to mention the J6 stuff. So let's but now he's in real trouble. He's in real trouble because he flat out lied to Congress. And remember, lying to Congress, if the Congress is controlled by the Democrats, is an impeachable offense. So let's just see, and Merrick Garland can be impeached. This is Merrick Garland under questioning of Chuck Grassley in the Senate. And he asked him very directly about the investigation by the U.S. Attorney David Weiss into the Hunter Biden laptop and the like. Listen to what he has to say.
Recent lawfully protected whistleblower disclosures to my office indicate that the Justice Department and the FBI had at one time over a dozen sources that provided potentially criminal information relating to Hunter Biden. The alleged volume and similarity of the information would demand that the Justice Department investigate the truth and accuracy of the information. Accordingly, what steps has the Justice Department taken to determine the truth and accuracy of information provided? Congress and the American people, I think, have a right to know.
So as the committee well knows from my confirmation hearing, I promised to leave the matter of Hunter Biden in the hands of the U.S. Attorney for the District of Delaware, who was appointed in the previous administration. So any information like that should have gone or should have gone to that U.S. Attorney's offices and the FBI squad that's working with him. I have pledged not to interfere with that investigation, and I have carried through on my pledge.
In April 2022, you testified to Senator Hagerty that the Hunter Biden investigation was insulated from political interference because it was assigned to, as you just now told me, to the Delaware Attorney's Office. However, that could be misleading because without special counsel authority, he could need permission of another U.S. attorney in certain circumstances to bring charges outside the District of Delaware. I'd like clarification from you with respect to these concerns.
The U.S. Attorney in Delaware has been advised that he has full authority to make those kind of referrals that you're talking about, or to bring cases in other jurisdictions if he feels it's necessary. And I will assure that if he does, he will be able to do that.
Does the Delaware U.S. Attorney lack independent charging authority over certain criminal allegations against the president's son outside of the District of Delaware?
He would have to bring, if it's in another district, he would have to bring the case in another district. But as I said, I have promised to ensure that he's able to carry out his investigation and that he be able to run it. And if he needs to bring it in another jurisdiction, he will have full authority to do that.
If you provided the Delaware U.S. Attorney with special counsel authority, isn't it true that he wouldn't need permission of another U.S. Attorney to bring charges?
It's a kind of a complicated question. If under the regulations, that kind of act, he would have to bring to me, to the Attorney General under the regulations, those kind of charging decisions.
Okay, this is important because what Merrick Garland has said on 3 separate occasions here is that David Weiss, the U.S. Attorney of Delaware, He had independent charging authority. He had charging authority anywhere in the country, and that there was going to be no consideration that he was operating independently. That was that 3 separate times testifying before the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. The Attorney General stated those things. But here's what actually happened. And so you now get the rest of the story. And so I was going to go to Kevin McCarthy first, but I'm going to go instead to Jason Smith first here to show you. He's the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. This was last week. And this is testimony from the IRS whistleblower that directly contradicts what the Attorney General says based on what David Weiss told the whistleblower.
Even an investigators had probable cause to search a Northern Virginia storage unit in which Hunter Biden had stored files. Attorneys for Biden were made aware prior to any search, providing them valuable time to remove any materials that could be useful evidence. Few Americans qualify for such soft glove treatment from federal investigators. Testimony shows that U.S. Attorney of Delaware David Weiss tried to bring charges in the District of Columbia around March of 2022 and was denied.
Okay, now notice he tried to bring charges in March of 2022 in the District of Columbia, and it was denied. So who denied it? If the Attorney General, if he had absolute power to go forward and in any jurisdiction where he found a crime occurred, then who denied his ability to do that? The only answer has to be either the U.S. Attorney of District of Columbia, which would have had to go through the AG's office or through the AG, or it was the AG himself or the Deputy Attorney General. Fact is, this could not be true. Either Weiss is lying about trying to bring those charges and be denied, or Merrick Garland is lying, saying that he in fact had full authority to do so. Let's continue in hearing what Jason Smith had to say.
Weiss sought special counsel status from the DOJ in the spring of 2022 and was once again denied.
Weiss attempted to get special counsel status and it was denied. Why did special counsel status? It would have allowed for Weiss to go into any jurisdiction and file charges, and would allow for much broader investigation in terms of the web of deceit that the Bidens had weaved. And so there was a reason why special counsel is much more powerful than a U.S. attorney investigation, because you don't have to deal with any of the jurisdictional boundaries. And quite honestly, the Attorney General has some power over the special counsel, but apart from firing the special counsel, has very little power to rein them in, as we saw during the Mueller investigation, the frustrations we had with that.
Weiss sought to bring charges in the Central District of California in the fall of 2022 and had that request denied in January of 2023.
Okay, January 2023, Weiss tries to get charges into Central District of California and was told no, and in January of 2023. So we now have 3 instances where Weiss specifically told the whistleblower and others, 6 other people who were in the room, that he had charges, he had things he wanted to do, and he was being blocked by Maine DOJ. So the question is, and I think what we're seeing is, Merrick Garland lied to Congress, not just once, but multiple times. I've shown you the one time in the testimony before Chuck Grassley. And so if Merrick Garland lied to Congress related to this, and he lied to Congress when he said, and there's credible evidence that he lied to Congress, when he told the Congress that the Mar-a-Lago raid was a decision by the local FBI, when in fact it wasn't. He lied to Congress when he said that the decision on how to enforce the protesters who are still protesting in Supreme Court justices' lawns, how the U.S. Marshal's Office should handle that. U.S. Marshal's Office says that's not true. What he said. So we have 3 instances of Merrick Garland specifically telling Congress one thing, and the facts on the ground being completely different, and the main DOJ having a massive impact and telling them the people on the ground directly what to do, telling the field directly what to do, as opposed to the power that they supposedly confer to them. So that's what we have with Jason Smith. Let's go back and see what Kevin McCarthy had to say on Fox News, because I think that's significant.
Yesterday, I laid out very, very clearly by July 6th, because of the allegations from the IRS, because of the whistleblowers and the DOJ, are Garland, what he is saying and what David Weiss are saying privately are 2 different things.
Right.
And if it comes true what the IRS whistleblower is saying, we're going to start impeachment inquiries on the Attorney General.
Well,
because as a matter of fact, it shows that.
And so it would be great if you had, call it your panel, you've got the whistleblower,
Yes.
you've got the Attorney General, and you've got the U.S. Attorney.
Let's see
Because
who's
they're all
telling the
3
truth.
saying different stuff.
Yeah, but what's interesting is the IRS whistleblower that has no political background took copious notes, can tell you the date, can tell you the people in the meeting.
he can say
And so
what
we could
the
hear
US attorney
so
said.
we could bring 6 other people in. And the U.S. attorney, you said this here, but the Attorney General says something different, said you had all power and you did
Right.
not.
So ultimately, people are looking in, and it looks suspicious.
It's more than looks
Well,
suspicious.
I understand, but given all the stuff you've uncovered so far, have you found Joe Biden broke any rules, any laws, or does it just look fishy?
Well, it's more than looking fishy.
Okay, so I'm going to just move on from the Joe Biden question, because I'm going to do something separate on specifically on Biden, because a lot's come out on that and the focus of this, and I'll talk about the chat if you want. But the point is, Merrick Garland, you see Kevin McCarthy just pretty emphatically saying that we have, if what the whistleblower says pans out, that this is a impeachable offense against Garland. And I think in a lot of respects, when Kevin McCarthy thinks about impeaching Biden, he thinks about laying out the case to impeach Biden and how important it is to actually just make sure you have a solid case that anybody could look at. If they've got it all an open mind, will say Joe Biden has forfeited his right to be president of the United States and should be impeached. And part of that, you have to get through Merrick Garland, because Merrick Garland is a key stumbling block in this process. And in the impeachment of Garland, you can open up a lot of can of worms that Garland doesn't want to open up. But clearly, Garland has lied to Congress on 3 separate occasions, and has told and has continued to press that lie. As I will show you, this is Garland just today, maybe yesterday. I think it's today.
Aggression.
I don't want it to happen.
To block him from bringing a prosecution. Mr. Weiss has since sent a letter to the decision to prosecute any way in which he wanted to, and in any district in which he wanted to. Mr. Weiss has since sent a letter to the House Judiciary Committee confirming that he had that authority. I don't know how it would be possible for anybody to block him from bringing a prosecution, given that he has this authority.
Okay, so there he's got Garland is saying that his employee, the U.S. Attorney of Delaware, who could be fired anytime, sent a letter to the House saying, I have that authority. Trust me, I have that authority. So here's what we have. But let's see, what was he telling the FBI and the IRS? Well, Washington Examiner, June 26th, that's today. IRS whistleblowers, David Weiss blocked from bringing Hunter Biden charges in D.C. and California. Here's let me just read the statement by his legal team. In an October 7, 2022 meeting at the Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office, U.S. Attorney David Weiss told 6 witnesses he did not have authority to charge in other districts and had thus requested special counsel status. Those 6 witnesses included Baltimore FBI Special Agent in Charge Tom Sowasinski, Assistant Special Agent in Charge Raisha Hawley, IRS Assistant Special Agent in Charge Gary Shapley, and Special Agent in Charge Daryl Walden, who also independently contemporaneously corroborated Mr. Shapley's account in an email. Now public is Exhibit 10 following page 148 of his testimony transcript. Mr. Shapley would have no insight into why Mr. Weiss would make these statements at the October 7, 2022 meeting if they were false. And Mr. Weiss made these statements as easily corroborated as up to him and Justice Department to reconcile the evidence of his October 7, 2022 statements with contrary statements by Mr. Weiss and Attorney General to Congress. So here's the deal, folks. On this contradiction, what you have to assume is either Weiss was lying when he told a number of people from different agencies that he was denied the ability to file. He was denied special counsel status, and he was denied filing charges in multiple jurisdictions. You either have to believe he's lying to them or that he's lying now. I mean, it doesn't look good that the guy is lying, has 2 statements, is totally contradictory, except for this simple fact. This guy, Weiss, had absolutely no reason to lie to this team back when this occurred, when the meeting occurred on October 7, 2022. He had no reason to lie to them. He said they're having a meeting, they're having a meeting about this case, and he's sitting there expressing frustration. I've been trying to prosecute this thing, and I'm getting blocked left and right. I'd like to be able to go and jam things through, but I can't because I'm not special counsel. I requested special counsel status, but they denied me special counsel status. So, or you can believe that his boss gets on the phone with him and say, hey, we're in a bit of hot water here. Will you send a letter contradicting what you told these people and say it didn't happen? Well, so he sends a letter. So it's really an interesting thing to have him sitting beside at least 2 people who are corroborating the tweet, corroborating the report that whistleblower Shapley, who was special agent in charge of the investigation, from what he said occurred at the meeting. And he memorialized, by the way, in an email that he sent to his boss, who was in the meeting. And this boss sent an email back saying, basically laying out the entirety of the case, that Weiss said that he's been denied being a special counsel, said he was denied having the ability to file charges filed charges at least once. Obviously that didn't happen. The denial of charges, filing charges the second time didn't occur until after this meeting. But you sit there and you look at it and you say, this was a report that was sent, an email report that was sent to Shapley's boss, and Shapley's boss, who was in the meeting, sent a note back to Shapley saying that about wraps it up in terms of being inclusive about what was in the meeting. So yeah, the question becomes very simply, Weiss supposedly his integrity is and whether or not when he was lying to these in this meeting, or was he lying when he sent the letter after the fact when the AG got into trouble? And when he got a lot of heat, by the way, for the sweetheart deal that he put together for Hunter Biden that none of us would get. So, when was he lying? Well, he was lying one of the 2 times. So let's see what he'll say to Congress and get him in front of Congress. And Kevin McCarthy promised that he'd be in front of Congress on, hopefully before January 6th or July 6th, which is coming up rapidly. This is a big deal. And I know people want to talk about impeachment of President Biden. And once again, I'll talk about that because there's a lot wrapped into this, but this is a precursor to that. And oh, by the way, Garland's been the bad guy in terms of really weaponizing and creating the weaponized FBI and allowing it to occur. He's been the bad guy in terms of going after with vicious prosecutions on anybody who they see who they think they can prosecute for being a Trump supporter. He's the point of the spear in terms of a bitter old guy who got denied his dream of being on the Supreme Court is now using the power of the Attorney General to go after the enemies of his boss. And it's the weaponization of the FBI and the weaponization of the Department of Justice as a whole has not abated since we had the Durham report. It has actually been accelerated. And Merrick Garland's one behind it. And that's why impeaching him is important, because he is the face of the weaponized FBI and the weaponized Justice Department. Let's go to some of the comments and see what we got. And I know a lot of them are going to be, we just need to impeach people, and I agree with that. But what we don't want is we don't want to have an impeachment where it falls on its face, where people say, oh, that was just all, it was nice, but it didn't actually get anywhere. If we're going to have an impeachment, which is very, very serious, impeachment is not trivial. And if you're going to impeach people, we darn well better make certain the ducks are in a row, because history is going to write whether the impeachment was valid or not. And you want to make certain that you have truly egregious, impeachable offenses that you're going after, and lying to Congress about the status of an investigation of the President of the United States and his son. In fact, blocking that is an egregious charge. It is a charge that's impeachable because it is truly obstruction of justice. And it's not just some little thing, a trap. Lying and blocking the investigation internally is beyond anything that they could have ever charged Donald Trump with on obstruction. And so in fact, this is the almost definitional in terms of obstruction. And so Merrick Garland has to be held accountable. That's why I'm focusing on this piece today. Let's just look at a few of these. And I agree, impeach them all. Here's my favorite. Brenda, I love the cat. Impeach them all. Well, Brenda, it reminds me of a Woody Allen movie where he's asked, they were saying, somebody says, well, who should we sue? He says, sue everybody. And it's impeach them all. Truthfully, I've got a petition urging Congress right now to impeach Mayorkas at Homeland Security for basically being completely for opening the doors to illegal immigration through his failure to enforce the law, which is within Congress's right. I've got one to impeach Merrick Garland, and that started over Mar-a-Lago, and continues on. And we've got one to impeach Biden because impeach everybody. I can do one for all the cabinet secretaries for abuses of power that they've had, but those are the big three from my estimation. But yeah, Brenda, you're right. There's I think the original sin on this was Republicans in the Senate voting for any of these guys, and creating an environment where we have a completely out of control federal bureaucracy that's engaged in wholesale warfare against the law and against the belief that the law will be equitably upheld. So wait, what? No raid on Hunter's place like was done at Donald's home in Florida? Hypocrisy. Hey, Daryl, how are you? Well, remember, one of the things we've learned in the last week and a half or so is that Weiss, that the IRS was going to raid a locker that Hunter Biden had. And the U.S. Attorney's Office leaked it to the Department of Justice, which then shared that information with Hunter Biden's attorneys, which then allowed Hunter Biden's attorneys to beat the IRS to the storage locker, and allowed them to go through the storage locker and remove anything that they didn't want the IRS to get their hands on. So you know, so yeah, the problem when it's being done at the IRS, they need to collaborate, or at least they felt they should collaborate with Department of Justice, even though they're the Treasury Department, as you know. And what's come out subsequent is the raid on Hunter's storage locker got polluted based upon Hunter's attorneys getting notified in advance. And another example of Department of Justice and Merrick Garland's team obstructing justice. So it's pretty frustrating. Let's see here, Michael. Democrats lied to the FBI and DOJ, and I don't think they want to take the fall for their treasonous actions. I think the reason they are being quiet is because they're about to give Democrats a taste of their own medicine, because they aren't going to take the fault for them being lied to. You know, that's interesting. I'm of different mind on this. I think that sometimes you get so much sunk cost into something. It's like if you buy a stock and it just keeps going down, and then you double down, and then you double down again. And at some point, you almost can't get out of the hole you've dug for yourself. And so they just keep doubling down. And there's a reason, there's a very practical reason that they can keep doubling down, is there's no evidence in their history that they're held accountable. You know, we saw what they did on Russia collusion. You know, they conducted a coup against the President of the United States. Let's just call it what it is. They conducted a soft coup against Donald Trump, and no one went to jail. No one lost their pension. There were no consequences for doing that. So why the heck would they think that there would be consequences on this? They don't. I mean, heck, we had text messages laying out how the emotional roller coaster they're going through in terms of the guy's head of the investigation was going through with his girlfriend about Donald Trump's potential presidency and the backup plans they had to take him out. I mean, this was an organized conspiracy to take out Donald Trump. We know that on Russia collusion. Nobody paid a price, at least not a severe price. Some people might have ended up having to retire early and stuff, but by and large, you know, Jim Comey's down in William and Mary College teaching a law class on ethics and law. He's Jim Comey, ethics and law. They've got book deals, they got all sorts of, they got money they got taken care of by the left. Nobody bore out a cost. So why wouldn't they? There's no cost to doing this. Of course you're going to do it. I mean, once you've crossed the Rubicon, you know, it's really hard to go back. And the Rubicon's been crossed, and they don't see any reason to retreat because there's no ramifications for moving forward. So, Michael, I wish that pendulum was going to swing. I just don't. I think that the upper levels of the FBI in particular are so corrupted, and we're so corrupted by Eric Holder and when he was AG, that you have effectively salted the ground so badly that there's nobody in the upper levels who view anything other than we have to go forward, because the only way we survive is by continuing to push ahead, regardless of any trouble we might get into, because they don't believe there's any ramifications. And truthfully, will the Senate impeach? Will they convict Merrick Garland? No, they don't care. Chances of the Senate convicting Merrick Garland are virtually nil. Similarly with Biden and impeachment, Lindsey Graham said there's no chance that he'll get impeached or get convicted. Well, he may not get convicted, but he damn well should bear the responsibility of having to face a trial, and have the Democrats have to defend the indefensible. Similarly with Garland, force the Democrats in the Senate to defend the indefensible. Force John Tester in Montana to have to make a vote. Force the Democrats the Democrat who's up in Nevada to have to make a vote. Force every one of these vulnerable Democrats who are in states where they should not have won to have to make a vote and defend the indefensible. That's what the job is. Force them to make a political decision. You may not get to 67 votes for conviction, but you darn well have to try to enforce the law. And this is not a petty thing. What Garland's done is not a petty thing, or not a small little thing. This is real. It's a big deal. This is obstructing an investigation into malfeasance by the President of the United States and the AG throwing his body in front of it. I remember the AG back in Nixon he ended up losing his job. Okay, over this. This was you had a series of events that at some point it becomes you no longer have the right to serve. And that is and Garland has to be held responsible. And his record needs to be permanently scarred for his abuses of power. Let's see here. I'm going back to Michael again. I don't know how FBI and DOJ is going to get out of not knowing they were lied to and still investigated, including with the Democrats. I don't know how they're going to get out of it either. The fact is, they've lost their credibility. AG Garland's gone on the attack, and he said that any investigation into what's going on at the FBI and DOJ is an attack on democracy. An attack on democracy. That's Garland's words this weekend. An attack on democracy. Well, remember what democracy is in their mind. Democracy is trying to manipulate the system so that they get whatever they want, no matter the means. Somehow it's not an attack on democracy to censor free speech. They aren't concerned about that, although that's a direct attack on democracy. No, they're concerned that any investigation of malfeasance of the Department of Justice somehow is a threat to the Republic. Well, the threat to the Republic is what's happened to the FBI. The threat to the Republic is what's happened at DOJ. That's the threat to the Republic. Unless we stand up for the rule of law and force these bastards to actually follow it, unless we do that, unless we force the rule of law upon them, we are going to lose everything. Because once you've lost the rule of law, once you've lost the sense that the rule of law even applies to other people, the entire willingness to follow the rule of law goes by the wayside, and you get anarchy. And which then slides to dictatorship very rapidly to get people under control. That's the path we're on. It's the path we have to avoid. And the only way to avoid it is to hold people accountable for failing to do their jobs faithfully and actually enforce the rule of law equally across the board without fear of favor. Okay, that's their job. They failed. They need to be held accountable. Not that I feel strongly about it. I'm tired of hearing the labor pains, and I'm ready to see the baby. I think the American people, or at least conservative American people, feel the same way. Yeah, I get it. I get it. But there's a reason why you wait for the full 9.5 months for the baby to be born, because you don't want it to be born prematurely. And a way that compromises the baby's health. And if the baby is a legitimate impeachment inquiry that isn't just based on emotion, but is based on facts that can be laid out and in a way that's indisputable, if that's the baby, then let's let the labor pains continue, because I don't know about you, but the Kevin McCarthy that I saw in terms of the Fox and Friends interview, the Kevin McCarthy I saw was pretty darn determined that they're going to get to the bottom of this, and was he was far further along than the Fox and Friends and certainly Ducey was, or Brian Kilmeade was. He was far further along in his thinking, and that's because he knows what's hidden. He knows what they know that the public doesn't know yet. But on this one, I know there's a great deal of desire to get on with it, but I'd rather take it slower and get it right than to sit there and say that we didn't get the truth out, because you only get one bite of this apple. You darn well better get it right. And failure to get it right will end up losing, could have the effect of losing the presidency in 2024 and losing the House of Representatives in 2024 and not picking up the Senate in 2024. So like I say, getting it right and not letting the squish Romney senators over in the Senate on the Republican side have any excuse for not voting to convict. Force them to vote to convict, because they're not going to want to do that. Joe Biden's their friend. Joe Biden, most of them served with Joe Biden. They don't want to convict Joe Biden. They don't want to convict Merrick Garland. Let them, put them in a position where they have no choice. And that's what's significant, why I showed you the Grassley clip and not others, because he lied to a Senate committee, direct inquiry to a Senate committee. Chuck Grassley can go to his colleagues and say, I asked him direct questions. He could have come clean. He lied directly to us, the Senate. And we have to hold him accountable for lying to the Senate. This isn't like he lied to the House. They're just little peons over there. Lied to you, the Senate. He violated he abused the Senate by lying to me. And that's why I use that, because psychologically the Senate views themselves as some kind of august body of, up on Mount Olympus with all these powers. And, the fact he lied to the Senate is going to weigh heavily in terms of the treatment Merrick Garland gets. And he's going to have to say, well, I didn't lie to you and Chuck Grassley's going to say, you directly lied to me. I asked you 3 times. In fact, I asked you knowing the answer. And you lied to my face. You lied to the Senate. And that puts a lot more weight on the impeachment of Garland. And so it's an important factor in this. Let's see, Karma, Trump impeached for phone call that was harmless, potentially to be impeached. Biden will be investigated for kickbacks from other countries. Congress needs to show the cover-ups being done by DOJ. And Jim, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. It's the magnitude of the abuse of power of Merrick Garland and now Donald Trump, against Donald Trump by both Merrick Garland and Joe Biden is enormous. I'll just go back to the other reason why I think the Merrick Garland impeachment is important. I really want, if we're going to fix the rule of law in this country, you have to fix DOJ. The only way to fix DOJ is to go after Merrick Garland and hold him accountable and begin that process. And so this is an important step in terms of not just fixing Department of Justice for now, but trying to set the predicate where we can fix it going forward in the future and take the weaponization and de-weaponize it even more aggressively than they're trying to decarbonize the country. Let's see here. Diane Walters, do something, impeach Biden, the whole group of Dems. We need the best president back. He's the best. Diane, I agree. I've explained the timeline. I think it's important that it's be done right. If this comes across as just being political or just we're hitting back, which is what the Democrats are going to say, that this is nothing more than a reprisal for the abuse of power against Donald Trump. And, every time Donald Trump gets charged, we're going to impeach somebody else. And then it diminishes what this is really about. This is about whether or not we're going to be a country in the future. This is about whether or not we're going to have a system of justice that people can depend upon. And if we don't do it right, we will blow a massive opportunity to actually bring this country back from the brink. And so I'm as impatient as anybody. In fact, when one of the reasons I fell in love with my wife back at University of Southern California was when I first met her. I went up to her dorm and she had a poster on the wall. She's probably not going to like me telling this story. She had a poster on the wall, and it was back in the day of blacklight posters, all that. As you can tell from my hairline, I fit that bill. And the blacklight poster on her wall was of one buzzard talking to another vulture, talking to another vulture, right? And they're looking down from a stump at a field, and one vulture is saying, "Patience my ass, I'm going to kill something." And that has been kind of a credo of my life. So for better or worse, but in this one instance, I'm preaching patience. So I would encourage you guys we want to demand that they impeach and create the political groundswell for impeachment. I'd encourage you to go to getliberty.org to sign that petition and to share it and share this video. But I have to trust that those who are putting the case together, those who've been prosecutors are putting this case together, are putting it together in a way that's systematic, undeniable, and destructive to those they're impeaching. And that is important. That is more important because this cannot be cast aside by those in the media who will seek to do so. It cannot legitimately be cast aside as being nothing more than political reprisal, because that damages the country too. The tit for tat, you went after our guy, so we're gonna go after your guy, is not valuable. What's valuable is you broke the law and we're gonna hold you accountable. That's viable. That's important. And it's on a bigger level than even Donald Trump. As much as I love Donald Trump, it's more important than Donald Trump, because this is about the whole marbles for our country. I'm gonna just sign off with that, and I appreciate you all coming on. Please share this broadcast, and if you want to, put some stars in. These things are important. We spend a lot of time preparing for them. We try to provide you with facts. And the reason we do these facts, we put the videos up front, then we talk about it later on, is because I really want the person who casually just steps in and watches the first 3-4 minutes to be able to understand what's going on and why it's important, and to see those videos, because the talk is important, but it's more important, but the evidence that is presented is more important. And so please share it. We know that it affects the algorithms, and a lot more people see it when you share. So please share it. And if you feel so inclined to like it, you guys are great. We appreciate you as an audience more than you can know. And if you feel inclined, go to getliberty.org and take the petition to impeach Garland, take the impeachment. There's a petition there, I think, to impeach Trump. Probably the Trump, or I said Trump, impeach Biden. Take that petition to impeach Biden and spread it around. The more people who take action on that, the more likely Congress is to act. We have to get the wafflers off the waffle cone and encourage them to continue, because they're getting the crap beat out of them by the left and by a lot of people they respect, and a lot of their funders saying, we don't want to go down this path. Can't you just take, Biden's gonna be gone in 18 months. What are you doing? And so all those people are gonna say it's too risky. The fate of the nation relies on Congress being willing to do their job when they face a situation where a president of the United States is so compromised that the president can't do his or hers. And in this case, that's exactly what we face with the Biden impeachment. And so if nothing else, take that and send it along, because I really believe that ultimately we are battling for the soul of America. We're in an intense battle for the soul of America. And part of the soul of America is whether or not we're going to be a nation of laws or a nation of men. And the left is trying to turn us into a nation of men and destroy the concept of being a nation of laws. And we have to fight back against that. And the only way we can fight back against that effectively is to encourage our Congress to do their jobs and to hold Biden accountable for selling out the country. And along with everything else, if nothing else, that. And with that, I'll let you all go. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please share, and we will be back tomorrow. And I think I'm going to do some more on Biden impeachment. I'm going to take a lot of video clips from the weekend and just kind of go over the Biden impeachment stuff that came out, because it's pretty incredible the amount of things that are coming out about the Biden impeachment. And, so much so that he hid up in Camp David when Russia was falling apart. Instead of being in the war room in the White House, he was up in Camp David huddling with his son, trying to figure out how they're going to wiggle out of everything. So we're living in a strange world, folks, and we have to be able to multitask on it. Thank you very much, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.